everybody, welcome to the vlog of many things. This is Don.
And I'm Tom.
And we're going to be talking about orcs, dwarves, three-piece suits, new gaming shops.
I thought we were going to be talking about another controversy and maybe the latest AI court case I came across.
Okay.
And then you said to me,
"Oh,
did you hear about the latest WotC?" I says, "What again?" It's only been 2 weeks.
It's all they need. How you doing, Scott? Welcome to the channel. RPG Grandma, how you doing?
Hi, guys.
And Thaddeus, how you doing? Thank you. Oh, man. Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, so I had to educate myself fast. Tammy and I were out today. We were out. We had to go
tend some business.
Yeah. So I missed everything.
All right. I can start this off pretty easy. I mean, probably everybody knows already a little bit about what's going on. There's some discussion. Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern covered it today. I know Clownfish TV covered. Tom, what is that you just did?
I'm making a shandy.
What the heck's a shandy?
A British shandy.
Oh, British shandy. Gotcha.
I discovered this in England. It's half beer, half lemonade. And on a day like this, when it's 90 degrees and just absolutely humid, this is the most refreshing thing you could do. And you need a very cheap, light golden beer. You don't want anything fancy schmancy. You don't want your Guinness.
It's like an ARF and ARF in the UK. You know, a little bit of stout with a little bit of pale ale.
Yeah. And
so
nice big cup. It actually took the whole, I'm using Corona Light. And some good.
You recognize these glasses, don't you, Tom?
Simply Limited. Yeah, those look like pint glasses to me.
Those are old-fashioned pub glasses, direct from the UK.
Pint of bitter. Mm-hmm. I'll take a pint of bitter.
But me and Tom's talking about our wild childhoods. I'm a northeast
18
Leeds
in
boy.
England. That was the drinking age, so I got to drink.
Yep.
And then I came back to the States and was like, yeah.
But at any rate, let's see here. Scott Mulder says 90, 111 here in Arizona. We hit 98 today in Michigan. So
I don't know what we hit. We were like I said, we were busy with some business.
Yeah.
We had to go help some people, and it's just oppressive here in Maine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the humidity that gets us down here, up here. But okay, for those of you who've watched Clownfish TV or Eric Tenkar, Tenkar's Tavern, or what you've heard about. Oh, hold on a second. Waybush says, I can't stay, but I just wanted to say new art is artistically fantastic. Great people love it. Because they are now the same as humans with tusks. Got to have more variety, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that. I'm getting ready to pull up some imagery on that.
Oh, the art's not bad.
Yeah. Let's first pull this up. We might just jump right into this.
Sure.
All right. This. Now, the art's not bad. I admit it's not bad. But this is supposedly Wizards of the Coast.
It's not Larry Elmore.
No, this is their new orcs. And to be blunt, and I'm going to say something that might be a little bit wildly unpopular, it's almost like they're mocking Hispanics in this. To me, because they're making it very Southwest Hispanic-like, that type of hat.
Yeah, it's Juan Valdez.
Yeah, wearing the chaps, I think they call them, or chaps.
Yeah,
and it's even in
medieval fantasy.
Yeah,
yeah,
and to me, and I know that people they frown upon the whole things with orcs and everything. But real quick, let's get a couple comments. RPG Grandma says, I read lots of rants that based on D&D art and 5e, everyone was playing in the wrong age, and the right age was the Renaissance. And so now looking at the orc art, I guess we're up to Oregon Trails time. Yeah, exactly. And then Sue Fuller. Sue, thank you for tuning in. I think you're new on our channel. They look like World of Warcraft orcs. Well, the thing is, that's just it. I mean, it's, they got the tusks, the slight tusks and everything, sure. But it's just the spheric genre look of it to me that really just I don't know why they're doing. I mean, I know why they're doing this. They're trying to make everybody happy, but they're deliberately trying to I didn't know how they even worried about why you want to call it a trope. I mean, they're trying to mainstream orcs as a regular player character class, is what they're doing.
Well, half orcs were all the way back in AD&D. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
what the issue is here. I suspect that this whole orcs were racist because they were standing for black people, which is no, they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
They never were. That was a manufactured controversy so that they could do something like this.
Yep.
And I kind of agree with Eric Tenkar when he says, I think that this is just, they're hoping to get a reaction from OSR people, fanboys, whatever, middle-aged white guys, maybe. I don't know. And they're hoping for a reaction where people lose their heads and are, ah! And, I just look at this and I'm like, I thought cultural appropriation was bad.
Well, see, this is a good point, RPG.
Cultural appropriation for me. What are you guys doing? You guys are stupid.
Well, this is exactly what they're doing. RPG Graham makes a good point. She says, after all the racism rants about orcs, we get this. It's weird. And that's the whole point. Earlier orcs are a stand-in for black people, which was total BS. Now what they're doing is they're making it look like orcs are a stand-in for Hispanics.
I mean, what are kobolds a stand-in for? Little people?
What's that?
What are kobolds a stand-in for? Little people?
But that's the whole point. But what they're doing is the whole reason why they yanked this whole orc thing from D&D was because the accusations of racism, And then what they do is they put this out, and it's like,
this makes no sense because this is a hunting party, and there's like one bow, and you go on a hunting party with a double-headed halberd.
But was it a hunting party? That's my whole point. I mean, it doesn't even make freaking sense. And, Doodle Squatch, thanks for tuning in real quick. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you what.
American Southwest or Mexico. And I mean, the hats, there's a couple of hats in here that scream, an ethnicity. So it's like, they're making orcs Mexicans.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be some problems with that because somebody's going to go, oh yeah, the orcs are raiding across the border. So would that make them illegal immigrants? I mean, it's going to play into modern politics. I'm like scratching my head going, I don't get this. It's kind of stupid.
Well, RPG Grandma says, I love Gonzo games, and this strikes me as art appropriate for Gonzo. Yeah, it's Gonzo-like, but, it's purposely designed for mainstream, new 6E, 5E.2, whatever you want to call it, their new version of D&D, their new edition. And Scott Mulder says, not sure what to think of this. I do like fantasy themes that are a little more anachronistic, where it could fit anything, but this does not feel clever. Why would orcs be in the high desert? See, that's exactly it. And then RPG Grandma goes on and says, OG says it looks like the art and the mission near him representing Spanish contribution to California. Exactly. It does not fit. I mean, sure, it fits a Southwest style area in any world. Can be cacti, rock protrusion, but I mean, this looks Hispanic to me.
Honestly, if this was part of a new setting, like a Dark Sun, and they were making, and they were doing some, making it a little bit like, little Hispanic, whatever, cool. But D&D at its core has a default that it's a, medieval, maybe slightly Renaissance fantasy RPG. You leave the default alone and you do a new setting like Dark Sun was, or like Albion in. There's a game company in Scotland that does Napoleonics, a Flintlock, and their setting. They've kind of reversed the map of Europe and played with it a little bit. And in their setting, the British are orcs, the Irish are bog orcs, the Scotsmen are like dogmen, the French, the hated French are high elves, and then the Spanish are wood elves, and then the Portuguese are goblin. And the Germany had dwarves, so you could have beer variants, which I thought was kind of cute. and in Russia they're like the undead faction. So, but it's all Napoleonics, because what happens in Napoleonics war games is people start arguing that unit could not do that, and you get all these. So they've stripped away all the arguments from Napoleonic war games. You just have fun with this thing because you have British orcs and French elves, and and you play games like Slaughterloo, which I think is a nice, neat play on words. That's a great setting. I actually own a lot of their figures. Somewhere in the back room, but
this isn't it.
Yeah. So if you had done this as a separate setting, we're doing the Aztec Dawn or whatever you want to call it, some name, and you had orcs in there, I would be like, oh, that's kind of a little bit interesting. But now it's just kind of
well, Doodle Squatch says sometimes I think they're just setting up future grievances for the fellow SJWs to use in the future. It makes no sense. And RPG Grandma says, I don't get how it's Greyhawk. Bingo. And then
that's right, they were bringing back Greyhawk, weren't they?
Yeah, well said. Yeah, but supposedly it's some different time, because I looked at the map and that's not Gygax Greyhawk. Scott Mulder says, I could see this fitting a Dark Sun like setting. Yeah. And then Rod says they might not be Mexican or Hispanic like everyone was saying. They could be indigenous Americans, which doesn't make it better, by the way. Who's the artist? Are they indigenous or Hispanic? See, real quick, I want to get into this part. Who's the artist? Nobody knows because it's not signed. And I went to WotC's website and I dug around because I wanted to find out who the artist was on this stuff, and you can't find it.
Well, I'm betting that they're probably white, middle-aged guy who looks like us.
Well, I'm willing to bet that it's probably a lot AI, but just my humble opinion. RPG Grandma says, yep, a Wild West D&D setting would be cool. She goes on to say, yep, it's a head scratcher at Doodle Squatch. And she says again, steampunk, Wild West, D&D, RPG Grandma, don't worry. We're going to get into steampunk here in a few minutes.
They should resurrect Boot Hill.
Yeah.
With these orcs. I mean, be a little bit more interesting. Oh, okay, that would be interesting.
Yeah, and Mexicans are indigenous Americans for the record. Diana says, yes, exactly. But the point being is they're definitely carrying that theme with this. Just not U.S. Yes. And then RPG Grandma says, I don't care who the artist is. It's stupid to scream racism over art. It's really stupid to scream racism over art. But I bring the point up, RPG Grandma, because what they did early on with the whole orc race in AD&D and other Dungeons and Dragons races, it's almost like instead of just saying we're going to discontinue or we're going to redo this race to make it, in our opinion, more interesting, put it like that. Instead, they have to attach something negative to it because they're looking for an excuse when, in fact, they own the IP and they don't need a damn excuse. They can do it. And it's not only orcs, but we're going to show here in a moment, dwarves. And,
put our pictures to the side, not on the bottom.
All right, let me do that.
So, there you go. So now you can see the whole thing.
Yeah. So the thing is this is the new dwarfs. Scone making. They're mining. Doing stuff, but it's just, again, maybe it's just my old D&D thinking, but I'm going to probably catch a lot of shit for this, but to me, dwarven females have beards. And it's not anything against women. It's just that's the trope behind fantasy dwarves in my mind. And I know it's very Tolkienish, by the way.
Yeah. Well, this is the like Strixhaven where you worked in you were a barista working in a coffee shop at college, worried about your exams and who you were dating and going to prom. And so clearly this guy with the baked goods and the oven mitts and his sandals, he fits right in Seattle, Washington. And
the thing is RPG Grandma, I'm going to get to one of her points. So she made a good point here in a little bit. But she says, I agree, they've been beating the community up unjustly. And then Scott Mulder says at the game table, I'd have trouble fighting these orcs. Not very adversarial. Are they allies now? And then RPG Grandma says, I think it looks AI. Doodle Squad says, might be an it's okay when we do it situation. Could be. And then this is what she says. She says, dwarves are hobbits. And she makes a really good point here because they are almost hobbit-like. And then the final comment was, Thydus says this Canadian term for the smithy is soft. That's all I'm going to say. And but you're right. They're almost Hobbit-like.
Well, I think I think what you have is just a dumbing down so that everything looks like everything else and there's no distinctives.
Yeah.
And it's just, orcs are humans just with prominent, underbite, and, dwarves are going to be more hobbitish, and,
I mean, I just don't get. I don't get what the McDonald's drive-through on that image is for.
Well, it could be it's the barista, right? You're going through the
true.
drive-through window. It's Star Sucks to get your baked goods.
Hey! My daughter's a manager at Starbucks, and I get free coffee every week. So you just start. Shh, okay? We don't tell nobody about that. My freezer's full of ground coffee. Good stuff. But real quick, RPG Grandma goes on and says, Dwarven females need sexy beards, so non-bearded females living in Dwarven cities wear beards to be fashionable. Exactly. And then RPG Grandma also says, how is the beard salesman supposed to make a living now? Exactly. But okay, you look at this image. You got a dwarf, like you said, wearing sandals, which is not too much of a big deal, but, got the oven mitts on, the gloves. But I don't even know how this image coalesces together. So he's delivering scones.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think this is an intentional. Well, let's make the white guy a baker, and we've got every other flavor of skin color here for dwarves. So apparently, dwarves are humans now because they've got Asian and black and Hispanic and white. And I'm like, because nobody ever played a dwarf who wasn't white before, right? So, Hispanics could never play a dwarf because dwarves didn't look like them. I think they're just kind of diluting it.
Yeah, Thydus says, I miss gritty dwarves, monstrous orcs, and klepto halflings. Don't worry, those aren't dead.
Yeah, I love this comment.
Soy dwarves, yeah, exactly, RPG Grandma.
Soy mocha latte.
And then Rod says, I know Mexicans are indigenous Americans, but they aren't the only ones in the now American Southwest, is my point. Yeah, I know. And RPG Grandma says, tofu is manly.
I like tofu sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes tofu's not bad. But it's just that the whole thing with this image is this. I look at this and I go, what point are they trying to make? Okay, here we got dwarves. Okay, they definitely have the foundry and they're making something out of metal. Okay, but how does that blend in? This all blend into the happy dwarf with scones and the McDonald's dwarven drive-through.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I think what they're doing is they're trying to recast white men as, oh, you should be baking, you should be, and listen, I'm a white man and I learned how to knit from a 92-year-old woman in the nursing home, and I know how to bake because baking is like working on a car. You can read an auto repair manual, you can read a recipe, but I just feel like they're intentionally messing with the tropes, trying to push an agenda.
Real quick, I just had one of our commenters PM me something very interesting that he noticed.
Okay.
Let me real quickly pull this up. He's got the other dwarves' beard designs tattooed on his arm. That's a beard.
Oh yeah, that's a mouth and a beard.
Yeah.
All right. So who's wearing that beard?
Oh. Almost like that one. Pretty darn close with the loop, the braid.
Yeah. And he's got a tattoo of the beard with rings. Okay.
Yep, with rings.
All right. So all right, I get it. These guys are a couple.
Yep. So the thing is what they're doing here, and I'll be honest with you, I don't care if they want to make characters, whatever they're going to do, that's okay with me. You know what? But what they're doing is it's an interesting subtle pop, because now when you notice that the one dwarf is looking back at his friend happily, and it looks like he's bringing him scones. And I'm not trying to sound like I am anti-gay or anything like that, because I'm not. I mean, I'm my company works with the gay and trans community. But what they're doing here is if you're going to put it in there, make it part of the storyline of the image itself and be proud of what you're doing. Don't, be subtle, fine. But I would like to know what because this is evidently going to be in the new player's handbook.
Yes, this is the new player's handbook.
So what I want to know is, are they going to have, as part of the player's handbook, are they going to make storyline as part of the character tropes?
Well, they're flipping character creation on its head. And so I don't know if you've noticed in the past couple of years, people on YouTube, I don't think I've actually said anything on this lines, but there's some people that are like they hate the 5-page backstory that people write. And now you've got to adjust your game to account for my 5-page backstory. Well, D&D Wizards is now going to embrace that 5-page backstory that you must write, and you actually start with the backstory, and then your character gets pluses and minuses based on how tragic your backstory is.
Mm-hmm. Well, RPG Grandma says, I like tofu, but again, not following the rule of cool. Everyone just buy Runehammer games. He won't nerf dwarves ever. And then Scott Mulder says, it's a little too cheery. Not to say that dwarves aren't happy, but they always seem proud. This is out of place. See, that's what it is with me. And to me, dwarves are always sullen and a little grumpy, a little bit, grouchy. And RPG Grandma says, man bun on the one dwarf.
These are Disney dwarves.
Scott Mulder says, I can't unsee that now. Thanks. RPG Grandma says, is scone dwarf in Birkenstocks? I don't know. This is the new D&D version, RPG Grandma. Anything is possible.
He's wearing some Seattle sandals. We'll call him that.
RPG Grandma says he has a little kitten too, or a kitten too. And then Scott Mulder said, cringe on the beard tattoos, not their just sexuality. Well, the thing with me is this, is if you're going to have it on the image, then you need to make sure that there's some type of follow-up backstory to it, or something that brings it there, to make it common sense, or instead of leaving it like an innuendo.
What do you do if you're you get the tattoo of your dwarven lover's beard on your arm, and then he changes his beard style, and the tattoo no longer ages well.
I guess it doesn't age well.
What do you do then?
Yes, yes, RPG Grandma. More backstory. Hell is on its way. Jason Elliott. Jason, thanks for tuning into our video. Gotta be honest, it sounds like old men yells. A lot of this sounds like old men yells at a cloud. No, not at all. The thing is, the only way that I think. Well, let me back up. I'll say it like this. With new versions of D&D, things like this, you should talk about it. Instead, you don't have to blindly accept everything. The thing is I'm not knocking the fact, and I'll say it again, I'm not knocking the fact that, the two dwarves may be in a relationship. What I'm saying is, personally, as a gamer and as a game developer, I have a problem with the way that they're portraying some of the new characters or races in D&D, because what they're doing is they're doing the same thing. And I'll go back to the previous image, Jason. They're doing the same thing with orcs now, that they supposedly stopped using the old design of orcs because it was a racial trope. And now they're using a new racial trope for the orcs. And it's just a double standard that doesn't fly with me. It doesn't fly with me as a vlogger. It doesn't fly with me as a gamer, nor a game designer.
Their name to Racial Tropes of the Coast.
Well, the thing is again, with the orcs, I'll go right back to my original point. They changed orcs in the very beginning, or one of the reasons why they changed orcs, let me back up, is because they said it was a racial-based trope. Okay, fine. But then with their new version of Orcs, what are they doing? They're using a racially based trope. And real quick, Thyatus says, I think the art itself is an explicit signal that the target audience has changed, which is fine. It's just another reason to look elsewhere for most of us. The market will decide winners and losers.
Yeah. Can I? I want to speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shortly, I don't know when, but shortly after the OGL scandal happened, I kind of reached the point of like, whatever. WotC can, particularly when they took D&D and they put it in the Creative Commons. All right, fine. They gave it to us. It's our game. WotC, go do what you want. I don't care. I really don't care. I only report on this stuff because it's news for the hobby. I'm done giving them my money. I don't care. I think this is dumb, but whatever. If you've got a target audience that's going to support you, have at it.
Well, it's like what I've always said about D&D, and I'll defend Wizards of the Coast in this one way, and that is, it's their IP. They go ahead and they steer the destiny of their game, and it will either result in sales, it'll result in, low sales, high sales, whatever, time will tell. But at the end of the day, there's enough D&D out there, version-wise, product-wise, that, you know what? If you don't like it, don't play that version. And even if you play that version, if you don't want your orcs to look that way or your dwarves to be this way, you don't have to do that. You can make them look and play any way that you want.
This feels like they're appealing to Critical Role and the latest outrage, social outrage. Well, and I just think they're pandering. And
Jason Elliott makes a good point here. He says people play differently now people play differently now than they did in 1980. You can't appeal to one generation with another generation stuff. I 1000% agree with that statement, except again, you cannot, as a company, okay, and I'm talking about as a company who is the current company who owns this IP, back when they radically changed races before, and their reasoning is because they didn't like the fact that it was following racial tropes, and then now they're redoing it following what? Racial tropes. And see, that is my problem that I have with this. It's almost like, it's not almost like, they are being a little bit two-faced with this, I think.
Hypocrites.
Yes, and RPG Rama says, if people want this, they'll buy it. Exactly. Jason Elliott, hey guys. RPG Rama says hi at Jason Elliott, and then Tabletop Tap Room, you are speaking up.
Hey Jason.
And then RPG Rama says, of course, guys, at 4 boys to every girl in Dwarven Society, just saying. And then Rod says, dollars to donuts, they move past the grumpy treasure hunter due to the accusation as anti-Semitic tropes, which is fine. Whatever, we aren't the target audience. The thing with the orcs is weird. And Rod also says, I'm holding off judgment till I know who the artist is. And then Sue Fuller says, I'm still trying to figure out what the small woman is near the window. She doesn't look like a dwarf at all. Yeah, that's almost like...
it's like it's a drive-through. I think you pegged it. It's some sort of
drive-through. No, this character right here, I looked at that earlier and I was like, is that like a halfling child? I don't know what it is.
Or a dwarf child. I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't think so. But maybe. Calvinoni, hey Cal, thanks for coming on. So touching. Yeah, halfling, exactly. But a child, definitely. It's childlike due to the hairstyle and everything. I think my daughters had little hair buns like that when they were little things. Rod says, I can't see Jason's post in chat, but I largely agree with them. Hey, everybody, real quick, can people see everybody's comments in chat? James Carpio says, looks like you're standing on a chair, a gnome. That could be also.
Yeah.
And real quick, James, welcome to the channel. I don't think you've ever been here before. At least I don't recall your name in here. Thanks for tuning in. RPG Grandma says, maybe. Thais says, I agree with Jason as well, except I'm a millennial too, and I don't see the appeal. So, okay, moving on from dwarfs, we'll move on to 3-piece suits and handguns. This was also shown. And,
Jason Bourne.
well, again, I don't know if this is a hint that maybe they're going to offer an RPG game or a setting in a newer
Well,
world, maybe?
I think they should. I don't see how you mix this in with medieval fantasy, but I mean, again, it's their game, their company.
Let me see here.
I mean, are the dungeons wheelchair accessible?
Well, we talked about that before, I
I
think, in
know.
another one. But the thing is, it's not even that gets me. It's the fact that they're holding what looks like, I can't see the other side, so I don't know if it's a flintlock pistol. It appears to be a flintlock pistol, but this guy right here, he's wearing a
Three-piece.
1930s,
Yeah.
1920s ish,
Yeah.
outfit with almost like a watch fob. This person's dressed more like in 16th century
I mean,
type.
could this be AI arts doing this?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. They're not telling who the artists are on these games.
Because I mean, this is the kind of thing
Let's see
that
what's going
AI
on here.
would mix and match and not get right.
Let's see here. 1 minute, real quick. Let me catch up. We got a lot of comments we got to catch up on. Hold on a minute. Jason Elliott says James is one of my partners in Solarian. Very
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Calvinoni says you have two chats going on two channels. Yeah, but I have them selected where all comments should be showing in chat.
James
And
Carpio rocks a black kilt at a convention.
oh, okay,
I've seen
cool.
it with my own eyes.
And then Rabe says I can never see Jason's or Grammar's and Tunker's comments in chat. Weird. Let me do this here. I am going to. Well, I'm gonna select only one. I think I'll select on the vlog, but make sure you have live chat on not top chat. Yeah, real quick. Jason, they're on the other channel, and then maybe they had a time apocalypse event. Let's see here. Still voting AI art. This definitely feels like steampunk rather than fantasy. Yeah, it's got a real weird vibe to it across the board. The girl on the far left is definitely some type of magic user, sorcerer, something like that, which is pretty cool. But the outfit is not medieval. It's
Yeah,
almost got like a 1930s, 40s vibe to it too.
it's
Um,
steampunk.
yeah,
40.
Thida says wheelchairs don't really show up until the 16th century, 18th century for Europe. It's immersion breaking unless the setting is very much in the late early industrial age. See, this
Well,
is the whole
yeah,
thing screams a new setting to me, or a mini setting, or a couple chapters in the manual going if you want to do an alternate reality. I don't know. Steampunk, yep, steampunk. And then we got steampunk is cool. Yes, it is. And then James says the art is not horrible. I'm not a fan of mixing fantasy with steampunk, but I like the artist. Oh, the art's pretty cool, but it's got a lot of weird questions to me with it.
yeah,
Yeah, they're not all showing because some people are probably in Tom's, some people are in mine, some people are on the vlog of many things. I think I have to select one of them. And then, yeah, 1930s styling, exactly, Cal. And Scott Mulder says, do you think they're trying to repurpose this into a modern version of Avalon Hill's Lords of Creation game? Do not know.
Mm.
It could be. Jason Elliott says, dragons don't show up in any century for Europe, so I'm perfectly fine with the wheelchair showing up in any century. The wheelchairs don't bug me in the setting. To me, it's all depends on the DM and players, like we were talking about before. But what really throws me off in this, again, I'm going to say it, is the gun and the man and the woman on each side of the wheelchair. They just are so out of. I mean, they're so. It just doesn't scream anyway. Fantasy medieval. So something's going on with WotC. Interesting to see how this pans out. Yeah, but the thing, RPG Grandma, is great. What they're doing is the new Greyhawk map is earlier in the Greyhawk history, from what I understand. So it's not a futuristic Greyhawk. It's earlier. Oops. Calvin says, no, Scott, they're masters of inconsistencies. Lords of Creation could be RPG Grandma, absolutely. And then James says, why are all these saved heads in newer D&D art? Is the faux hawk historically accurate? Exactly. And then Thea says, on the contrary, Jason, Europeans wrote about dragons all the time, not wheelchairs. No need to get snippy, LOL. The thing is there's a lot of, I think the imagery brings a lot more questions than it does answers. But yeah,
You know,
wow.
I would like to go back to a comment about you can't appeal to a new generation with the stuff from an old generation.
Sure.
I just ran a Star Frontiers game. Now, admittedly, I did a little fudge adapting the rules to 5e rules. So all the skill rolls were basically a 5e roll on the D20. And I ran basically a 5-hour Star Frontiers game where they strapped on starfighters and they went out and fought pirates. And then because the pirates had actually gotten on the freighter, they then had to take a boarding shuttle and go board the freighter and deal with the pirates on the freighter and rescue the passengers and crew. And so they had a blast. It was classic Star Frontiers. It was, it was just straight up shoot 'em up, bang 'em up action. And as these middle schoolers absolutely loved it. They were like, "Mr. V, that was cool. And where do I get this?" And I'm like, "Well, it's you find it on drive-through, you find it here, but the rules you find are going to be a little different than what I presented to you because I tried to adapt it to 5e since I knew you knew 5e." But they loved it. They absolutely loved classic Star Frontiers. And, and I didn't change the setting. I used the setting as is, and they had a blast.
Well, Jason Elliott makes a good point. He says, possible that the new books will have options for playing in different eras. That could be the reason for this artwork. Yes, and it would be a really interesting thing. RPG Grandma says that might be. Cal says, we're old, so we notice, others may not. I think, Cal, honestly, I think more people notice than we really give credit. But it's I think a lot of people are just happy for new content. Maybe Portal world jumping could be. Thydus says Lord of the Rings time is so is Conan the Barbarian in my opinion. Absolutely. And so is the Belgariad, by the way. I'll throw that in there. Thydus says Jason, having multiple era options could actually be a cool to have. Very, very, yes, very cool. RPG Grandma says Star Frontier still rocks.
Amen.
I'm a Gamma World guy, but maybe me and Tom White Knight will have a debate on which one's better. That'll be a spirited. We'll be signing off each other's friends list by the end of that mutual video.
I gotta find out which side RPG Grandma's going to be on because I know she also writes and likes Gamma World as well. So
we'll have to put her on point. Calvin only says, "What? No freezing someone in carbonite." Oh. Scott says, with Hollywood recycling all the good content in franchises of the 80s, how is it that what appeals to one generation does not appeal to another? You know what? I agree with you. And there's a lot of stuff in 5e that I like. I mean, I publish 5e content, but there's a lot of stuff I don't like. And I think the earlier comment made, I think the bottom line of all this is you don't like it, don't play it. Play what you want. There's enough content with D&D and out there that everybody can have anything they want right now. James Carpio says, Jason Elliott, it's a really cool idea, but then again, it's WotC pigeonholing different settings into one game instead of encouraging other games from a different experience. Agreed. Jason Elliott says, I only play Star Frontiers. Yeah. I got my copy right up here, buddy. I try to play it drunk off my ass because that's the only way I can understand it. But JP got Rockets, thanks for tuning into our video, says wheelchair is a fetishistic affectation for able-bodied people to feel morally superior for their inclusivity. I've known wheelchair-bound players. They don't play wheelchair-bound characters. We actually did a video on this a couple weeks ago. JP also says it's disability blackface. I don't know if it's disability blackface necessarily. I mean, I don't really have a problem as a player or as a publisher given the option for everybody to feel inclusive in the game, to feel like they're part of a game. My only argument was, and I'll use the same argument I did a couple weeks ago, is, implementing a wheelchair-bound PC in something like a dungeon crawl would be very difficult. There's a lot of factors that the DM would have to juggle. And if you go look at our previous videos, we actually have one, JP, where we talk about the disabled in gaming, and we kind of really get into that.
Zombie Side had a great pre-gen character that was in a wheelchair. It was a grouchy old man of the, get off my lawn variety. And you'd say, all right, so how is a grouchy old man in a wheelchair going to survive a zombie apocalypse? Well, he had 2 Uzis. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get this character a little bit, because it's also, the genre is a modern world where there are curb cuts and wheelchair accessible ramps and so on and so forth. So I thought, all right, the character art on that character was pretty cool, and I thought he was cool.
RPG Grandma says Gamma World is cool. Calvinoni says Gamma World. RPG Grandma says I just convert to whatever game I'm playing. Exactly. She also says Metamorphosis Alpha, Radioactive Unicorns. Exactly. Yeah. RPG Grandma says I want representation of substance Braille dice not costing $200. And ASL for gamers, Braille dice. We make them. We make them. We're going to be selling them, and they are nowhere near that. They're less than $40.
Are those the Braille dice?
Yep. Cool. The Braille dice. So certified here. We're getting our paperwork back from the American Council for the Blind. We'll be certified by them. We're waiting to get that before we go ahead. They're actually included in D20 Delving. We're going to be producing here. Rod says Jennifer Kreckmer spelling uses a wheelchair and is a huge advocate for them in the game. Sorry if the above claim isn't factual. Well, I mean, the thing is gaming is different things to different people. And, if a person came to me as a DM, if I have a campaign going and they want to have a character in a wheelchair, do it. Let's do it. But there's going to be parts of the game where they're going to have to explain to me how they can navigate something or move or anything like that. And I am happy to go ahead and say, you know what? If you can make it work, let's do it. But that's the point, making it work. RPG Grandma says ways to help communicate. Yep. Cal says rolling through the carnage. Hey, it happens. That actually sounds like a good name for a zombie apocalypse module. RPG Grandma says awesome Braille dice. Yes, thank you. And then Calvin only says off JK does. Off JK does. Cal, we should explain that.
JK Rowling.
Oh. Well, J.K. Rowling's just a flagrant bigot, is what she is.
So, back to the wheelchair-bound character in an
exactly
fantasy RPG. Vikings, the series Vikings, they had Ragnar Lothbrok's son there, Ivar the Boneless. Now, Ivar the Boneless is a historical character, and we believe that that this name Ivar the Boneless is a bad translation by British monks. And so, people have interpreted that as, oh, he couldn't walk. And so they actually did the character in the series as that he had legs he couldn't use. And so he was crawling around in the beginning of the series. And then at one point, it was either Floki, the boat builder, or one of the brothers built him a chariot. And so then they had him riding the chariot going into battle. And I thought, for that story, going with the interpretation that Ivar the Boneless had legs he couldn't use, that was a good adaptation. They didn't do, combat wheelchair or anything. They actually, he's crawling around in the Great Hall and, ready to go after somebody's knees with a knife. I mean, he was a very dangerous, sociopathic kind of character. And I thought he worked, but the writing was spot on for him.
But then you look at Game of Thrones, Bran, the youngest son of Ned Stark. I mean, he ended up in a wheelchair, and they made it work.
At first, he was dragged on a sled. He was carried on Hodor's back.
Yes, but at the end of the day,
it wasn't anachronistic, though.
No. Real quick, OGDM says, hi, Tom.
Yeah. Hey, OG.
And then Cal says, of course, Jennifer does. RPG Grandma says, boneless equals coward. Yeah, that could be also.
Well, actually, they think they found Ivar the Boneless's body. There's a theory that this one Viking grave found in England was him. and he was a big man, and he was on a raid killing people. So I don't think he was a coward, but I also don't think that he was boneless in his legs and he couldn't use them. I think
Well,
he was very
keep in mind the show Vikings took
Well, yeah.
Viking mythology and they went way different with it. I mean, they tried to follow it, but they got to have the
They
fun
took
part.
liberties. They took terrible
yeah.
liberties. Sure.
Yeah, Scott says, so this is 6th edition. I finally just broke down about 5e. Haven't read it yet. I saw an ad on HasLab with a new player's manual that does not look like 5e player's handbook. Scott, I had to learn 5e. I admit I'm not a huge fan of 5e. But the thing is I guess with this new edition, they've expanded character classes, like crazy amounts of classes in it now. And a whole bunch of other stuff. The OGGM says wheelchair is fine. Wheelchair in the Middle Ages is fine. Wheelchair, that's a 2,000 gold piece artifact. Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. I mean, and then how does that wheelchair, does a wheelchair have magic ability to hover automatically? See, these are my points. As a GM, if someone said, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, I'm happy to craft around that where they can get this wheelchair as a new character. Maybe they do find, and they buy this magical chair or whatnot. Again, it's up to the DM, it's up to the players, it's up to the, it's your own game, do it your own way. Calvinoni says early propaganda. RPG Grandma says, but boneless would be an insult, maybe. Very well possible. And then RPG Grandma says, or maybe he killed any cooks who served him food with bones in it. Never know. But so the debate will rage on, I am sure, with every new output of product that WotC's going to come out with. I'm sure there's going to be questions as to who did the art. There's going to be questions. I mean, earlier, an artist that I know of really well who does beautiful art, she was lambasted publicly over an art piece that she did do for the new edition of D&D. And it was legitimately not AI, and people not only accused her of doing AI, they were nasty. They were horrible to her. Mm-hmm. And it caused her to actually post her rough Photoshop Wacom tablet sketches. And people are saying those are Photoshopped. And I went back and forth with a guy earlier about it, and I told him flat off, I said, you don't, he says, well, the edges look too soft. And I said, it's called blending, you moron. Learn how to use Photoshop, and you'll understand what the blending tool is all about. And, so there's a lot of people amped up about AI. Is this AI? Maybe not.
It's the new witch hunt. And at
exactly.
the same time, there's a lot of people going, oh, I'm going to use this. But it's the new witch hunt. And, I think you're right. I think it's people who don't actually use Photoshop or GIMP, GIMP 2, or any of those programs, and uses those kinds of brushes. That's there's the Spanish Inquisition, the AI Inquisition that's going on right now. I think these are people who are just not that familiar with actually using these kinds of tools. And so that.
Well, I mean, and I've said this in multiple videos, and people like Jason Elliott will understand this, and other people use Photoshop. Is, it's the same thing that happened back in like 08, 09 when brushes came into effect, and people are like, "Oh, you're using brushes. Oh, you're cheating. You didn't draw it. I mean, you're just putting clouds in there using it." It's like, no, it's a tool, and I think AI is here to stay. I think that sooner or later we're going to get to the point of ethical AI. And my little statement on AI is this: I think soon it's going to be where you're going to be able to add your imagery to AI, a personal AI based program instead of web based, and it will learn off of your own work. I had this discussion with a well-known guy attached to the conventions and everything. He's a good friend of mine, and we talked about this, and he thinks it's going to go that way too. And he does a comic book. And he made a good point. He says, man, if I could just have the ability to train my own AI to go off of my own imagery to draw in my style, where I could do all my inking on my own then, because the inking takes time, but that drawing takes a lot of time. It'd be great. Real quick,
on the point of AI, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be later than sooner on that things become normalized, because there are newspaper conglomerates that are now suing Microsoft and now suing So it's because what they have found is look, your AI can completely reproduce an article within hours of us publishing it, and you're using a century worth of our content. The New York Times is alleging centuries worth of our content that's copyrighted, and you're using it without compensation or permission. So they are suing, and it's just going to get ugly, ugly, ugly.
Well, there's also several class actions going against Midjourney and several other AI companies. RPG Grammar makes a really good point here. She says, I just figured no point in getting mad over them. Their creative vision at WotC. I'm not really, I'm not saying I'm mad. What I'm saying is I get your point fully, and I agree with you. It's their IP, their vision. But, be careful when you stand on, your moral rock and you say, I am changing, and I'll use the Orcs again. I am changing this race because this race is, a trope, and we don't do that here. And then you do it.
Did you freeze, Don? This race is racist. Something happened.
Hold on.
Maybe I'm out.
Are you there? You're on video now.
I'm here.
Okay. RPG Grandma says, I'm not going to get mad at artists. That's silly. Neither am I. JP says, people having an opinion that was AI, okay, sure. Emailing and direct messaging or otherwise harassing artists, no. Yeah, this lady got really she got nastily attacked. Personally, she woke up and she said that her PMs, her email was just jam-packed. Yeah. RPG Grandma says, AI is here. We all know it. You are right. It is here. And the OGGM says, WotC can do whatever they want with 6E. It's their thing. All this is stuff they have been pushing since 2020 to race any trace of Gygax from
I just
D&D.
wish they would stop lying and call it 6E. They're saying, oh, no, it's not 6E. It's 5E. It's backwards compatible, and it's a lie. And I just wish they'd be honest.
RPG Graham says, yeah, that's not cool. JP got rockets. JP says, lots of people are of the mind that we can never be ethical use of AI. No, I believe that you can definitely have ethical use of AI, but what it does is it starts with to taking away the ability or penalizing those who utilize trademarked or other protected IP of artists.
You have to have ethical assembly of the training data.
Exactly.
Okay, because AI music is they're being very scrupulous to eliminate anything that has a copyright on it, not going into the training data, because they know they'll be sued by Sony and the music industry. They know, so they're ethically assembling training models for AI music that exclude anything.
And for those of you who think these music companies do not have the ability, keep in mind, Sony paid over $1 billion for Queen's music portfolio alone. So Jason Elliott says,
to take that lying down.
Yeah, exactly. So to be fair, when we published Gygax magazine, I had a rule that cover artists couldn't even use computers for their work at all. It was all traditional media. Yeah, I mean, you can do that. I mean, the thing is it goes. I think, hey, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Was your reasoning behind that because you're worried about them taking and manipulating existing images? I'm curious. Scott Mulder says, so the intricacies of the poses suggest this is not AI. AI has a lot of trouble with accurate body positioning consistently. The fighter gripping the pillar would be tough for AI to get right. Hey, Scott, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but you know what? I was curious, and about a week ago, I sat down and I played with AI, and it is now scary how good it's getting. I mean, they are really, every day it's improving a little bit. The OGGM says, let's change orcs so they're 100% ours. Okay, fine. So if you make them Spanish missionaries and conquistadors. Well, I mean, you can make conquistador a class. You can make the missionary a class, something. I mean, in the Open Worlds RPG, we have a class called the Inquisitor. And we have a class called the Warden. Thank you, Tim Kask, by the way. Those are Tim Kask's creations. RPG Grandma says, nice at Jason Elliott. Calvinoy says, exactly. Cal also says we're being watched. It's learning and adapting. Yeah, exactly is what it's doing. And then RPG Grandma says, yeah, the OGGM, it's weird, but gonzo. I guess we're kind of touching into AI now. Anyways, we're talking about it there, Tom.
Yeah, well.
But,
I still got in the AI.
Exactly. Now, real quick, to do a little bit of a palate cleanser. Okay, real quick.
Reasoning.
Yep, hold on a minute. My reason for traditional media was only purely aesthetic. It's too easy to take shortcuts with digital art, and we wanted to look what typically only comes from physical media. Thanks for clarifying that, Jason. I don't. That's actually a really good way of thinking. JP says, AI will never win. You have to pry my paintbrush from my cold, dead hands. You got to take my Wacom tablet from my cold, dead hands. And my pencil, because I love doing pencil art.
There's something really visceral about drawing in charcoal and then smudging charcoal with your finger, touching the media. You cannot get that. I have played with GIMP, not Photoshop, but GIMP. And you don't get that from GIMP. But there's really something that stirs in the artist's soul when you're playing with the actual media and touching it. And I don't know. It's just I only get it when I draw in graphite and charcoal.
Well, I mean, I can real quick. This is what I like doing, and this is my. I love pencils, and that's one of the things I drew that's above my wife's sewing table. And you can do things, and this is what you can do with pencil, why I like it. Then you can go ahead and you can like isolate the image. You could use it differently. And that's, again, what I really like about pencils. And, just, I love pencil drawings. I mean, I always have. And, what I think the problem here with artwork is who's really pushing this is people in publishing who are utilizing it in published works because they don't want to pay real artists. And that's pretty much where it all boils down to be. Real quick, RPG Grandma says, yep, old school art is meditation. And James Carpio says, off to class. Thanks for the conversation. James, thank you for tuning into our video tonight.
Hey, James, take it easy. See you at ShireCon.
And RPG Grandma says, nice piece, thank you. JP says, AI is such an emergent technology. It's an adapt or die situation. It's a productivity issue. Do you want to wait for 6 weeks for a painting, or you get it an AI user and have this afternoon? Yes, but see, this is your problem. Mm-hmm. You go ahead and you go put AI-based imagery in your publicly published works. Do it. And then what happens if these class action lawsuits start, the plaintiffs start winning big dollar amounts and judgments? Then what's going to happen is 1-800-CALL-LAWYER is going to be combing places like RPG, drive-through RPG and stuff like that. And they're going to find people who utilize AI, and then those people are going to end up getting sued. Drive-through RPG is going to end up getting sued, and it's just going to be a big freaking mess. And what's going to happen then is you're going to get these people coming up with, well, I didn't know that it was using stolen imagery, and they're going to say, the hell you didn't, because it's all over social media. It's been one of the biggest debates of modern times, of modern modern computer electric or artwork in such times.
And they're going to scrape your social media looking for statements that they could use to go, yeah,
exactly,
you weren't innocent.
Yep. And the thing is ignorance of the law is not an excuse for breaking the law, and that includes civil. Well, having art stolen,
the speed limit wasn't 90 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, having art stolen, I can understand what the artists are upset about. Exactly. And it goes right back. I believe RPG Grandma, you talked about a musket or something that was taken one time from your family. I remember talking a couple years ago about it on a podcast. But the problem, I think, that is the big issue here with me is going to be with AI is the whole, when are they going to step up and do it right? Real quick, because I want to actually get into something else I want to mention. I want to talk about that game shop real quick. But Jason says it's a classic trope in sci-fi for the humans to encounter some alien race or robots and have to explain how our humanity creativity is what makes us special. AI art is antithetical to that. Amen. Agreed 100%. And then RPG Grandma says that was pre-computer, digital, everything. Exactly. Now, real quick, I want to real quickly talk about something a little bit different. That Tom and his wife go over to Tabletop Tap Room, and they have a new kind of like ongoing video blog together called TNT. What's it called? TNT.
TNT.
Yep. Tom and Tammy. And you guys visited a new game shop. Real quick. tell us about it. I'd love to hear about this.
Well, there's a new game shop, and the owners are Doug and Dan, and so they named it D&D's Gaming and Hobbies, and they're on Facebook, they're on Discord, and so it's just a little storefront, and they've created this great little gaming space. They have Magic the Gathering tournaments on Monday, Magic Monday, Warhammer Friday nights, and they've got a private D&D room. If you want to just have a D&D game, you can actually rent the D&D room and just have a private space, no noise. They've got a paint booth for spray painting. They've got 3D printers. They just sell a bunch of stuff. And, so it's a great place. And the guy actually, said to me in a message today, he said, I hope you guys come back. I says, well, yeah, I says, I'm planning to come back and play test the space battle for a module that I'm writing, and that I plan on running this in a game and a convention. And he's like, oh, well, do you need players for that, or do you just need space? And I was like, well, I says, players who don't know the game, who might actually break it, would be good for the play test. He was like ready to set it up today. And I was like, oh, well, I got to tweak it some, because the middle schoolers showed me some breakage, and I'm still tweaking from what I learned from running it for the middle schoolers. So, yeah, he was right away like, oh, yeah, give me some information. I'll post it, and we'll recruit some players for you to play in it. So he's going to like serve me up a play test on a platter. Nice. At his shop, and I'm like, it's really cool. Plus, yeah. I love that I don't have to drive all the way to Portland to get.
Well, the thing that excites me, and I don't even live in your area. I mean, we live several states away from each other. I'm in Michigan. Is I always love it when a new game shop opens up, because there's just so far and few between. I'm actually going to be driving up to Connecticut. For anyone's up in Connecticut, me and my wife will be going up into Connecticut in July, because I got to deliver a full-size hand soul and carbonite, and I'm taking that up to the Battlegrounds, which is a game shop that's up in Connecticut. And we're delivering Han personally to the guy that commissioned it from me. So I'm going to be swinging through Connecticut. Tom, we're going to have to meet, and also we're going to swing through New York and hook up with Eric and Rach also. So we'll have to maybe come out one night and finally meet face-to-face and do some dinner or something. You know what I mean?
All right.
But before we go, JP says True RPG Rama, but they went out of business, so all good. We're discontinuing that product, but SDGS potentially lost those sales. And then, yeah, I can see that. But, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's an hour, and we do like to keep it at about an hour. Yeah, Tom, I'm serious. I'm glad there's a new game shop. That is just really cool. And for those of you who don't know about it, head over to the Tabletop Tap Room. You guys doing that a weekly? Is that going to be like an every week thing?
Well, yeah, we're just trying it out, and because Tammy wanted to be a little bit more part of the show, and so we're as we come up with content, we will continue to do that.
Yep. Well, everybody, again, I appreciate this a lot. I know that without you guys, we're nothing. You guys have taken these conversations in 500 different back and forth directions, and that's what we really want. Yep. So. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be start trying to get word about our shows out earlier every week. We're going to try to do that, where we try to get a little bit more advanced warning than last minute. But it's been a crazy few days. I mean, Tom and Tammy have had a lot on their plate. We've been kind of going back and forth here at Emerald. So everybody, again, thank you for tuning into our video tonight. I am Don.
And I'm Tom.
And this is the Vlog of Many Things signing off. Everybody, have a good night.